So in this little screencast, I'm just going to talk about how to configure the Dramatis personae. You can see here that I've actually got on the screen that's been imported from the XML. It's actually a Julius Caesar Dramatis personae. The reason I'm choosing this is because there are some specific things that you might want to be doing for any of your plays where you've got repeated roles. So as you can see from the actual colours here, which of course we will eventually remove, but we've got the name of the character and then the role alongside it. But some of them have the same role. So Casca, Trebonius, Caius Ligarius, they are conspirators against Caesar, and they all have that role as well. So rather than actually just repeating it, you might want to use some other technique. Well, in some publications you might see something called a ditto, which is just really a two like an inverted comma to give you the sense that as above, as above, as above. That's really what that means. But another way of doing it is to use some kind of brace. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here is to convert this. I need to convert this text into a table. So this part of the process might take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to do a few. But what we actually need is where we've actually got a comma between the actual character name and the role, we want that to instead be a tab marker like this. So the tab is on the keyboard like this, and as you can see, that's put a tab in it. Now the thing is that because of what I'm proposing, you might actually want two tabs so that you actually have two. You also put an empty table column here, because in that column we're going to actually introduce this idea of a brace, what we call a brace, to make a sort of inclusive arrangement. You'll understand what I mean as I go through it. So I'm going to put in two tabs like this in that space there. So two tabs, and this part of it is going to take a little while because I'm really only going to do it by hand, only because I want to make sure that I don't accidentally pick up any other commas that are in the role of the person, because sometimes you might actually see a comma in a list or something like that. So I just want to make sure that I don't do that. So this part of the process, as you can see, is a little bit fiddly. It's going to get rid of that comma there because we don't need the comma. Once we've actually put two tabs in here, we don't need the comma. So get rid of that comma. Just repeat it there. Okay, this will be done. I shall edit out this long process. Okay, now you can see I've put in these tab markers in between the character name and the role. It looks a bit messy at the moment, but I now need to select all of this text. And actually in this particular example, it goes over to 2 pages. And you'll also notice that I've even put in I have put in the tabs, although actually I've missed one here. I need to put that in here as well. So I put tabs even where I don't have a role. That's so that this also will be included in the table, but obviously the second cell will be empty. So anyway, the point is I select all of the text in that text, the text that is now currently role, 2 tabs, and then character name, 2 tabs, and then the role. And I now go to my table menu and convert that text to a table, choosing the tab as the row, as the column separator. The row separator, of course, is the paragraph break. And then if we click OK here, right, so we've now got this table, although it's not looking particularly brilliant because it's gone over to lots of pages, and it's also got lots of space that we don't actually need. But that's fine. We can even leave the borders on for the moment, so at least you can see what's going on. Now this central column here, we want to be very narrow. We don't really need this to be very wide at all. And as you can see, InDesign takes a while to refresh. So we need this column here to be a lot longer, a lot wider, I should say, and possibly we could reduce the width of the first column And that's sort of approximately what I'm thinking of now. Now, what we need to do is we can basically worry about the styling in a moment. We do, of course, want the style for this part. We want this style to actually be right aligned, and for the actual character name to be left aligned. But what we really want to do is to go to these places here where we've got repeated. That looks like we're missing a letter I there, actually. Interesting. But anyway, the point is that these things are repeated. So what we've got here are conspirators against Caesar. We've got quite a lot of those. So what we will really need to do is to get those cells and actually make them to merge them into one cell. And similarly here. So what I'm going to do is to select these. I'm going to select these repeated items here. I think there's even another one. No, that's enough. So these cells here, for these cells here, I need to go to table, and I need to merge those cells, right? And the same for these, although this one, I just want to make sure that we don't actually lose that text. I think it should actually keep the text in there, but I just want to make sure. So I'm selecting those, and then I go to table, and I'm merging those cells. Yeah, actually, I think what's happened is it's actually repeated it over and over again. So I just want to take all of those out except for one. Okay, now the next thing to do is that what we actually need to do is to make sure that this style, all of these styles down here, and I'm going to just select the whole column like this, and then I'm going to go to the table settings. So I can go to table, I can go to the cell options if you like, and look at it that way. So go to the text. Okay, and then here we want to actually align this to be in the center, like this. We also, well, I don't think we need to do anything for the left because it's already aligned to the left anyway. So that should be absolutely fine. Just want to make sure there's nothing else I need to do here. We will, of course, take off the borders eventually. This column here, however, for this column here, we want to, again, go to the text options for this one here, and we want to make sure that this is also in the center. So I'm going to make sure that the way that it's set up is that it actually is aligned to the center, so it aligns with with what is in the next cell, like this. Okay, and just making sure there's no other settings I want to change here at the moment. I'm not getting rid of the borders yet. Okay, and then also if I look at my paragraph styles, you'll see that the paragraph style that I'm using is the character name, and I want that to be aligned to the right. So I'm going to click here and go align to the right. Okay. Whereas this, I want to align to the left. Okay, let's go over here, and we're going to create a new style. We're going to call this character role, if you like. Do it like that, if you like. And the text inside here is aligned to the center, but what we actually need is to make it aligned to the left. How did I do this before? I think we need to create a new style, that's right. So this is a paragraph style called character role, which is already actually in the template. So this style here called character role, we need to make use of that in this cell. So I'm clicking OK to that, and then what I need to do is to go into the paragraph style called character role, and I need to make sure that is actually aligned to the left. Some other thing going wrong here. Character role as a paragraph style. Oh, that's because it's got a left indent. Okay, so we've got to get rid of all that left indent and make sure it's aligned to the left. So in other words, we're aligning the basic style to the right, but we're actually producing or introducing a new paragraph style for all of the text that is within the cell that's on the right hand side. Okay, so now what we need to do is to select the central one, and for this we also in this case need to go to the cell styles. So I'm going to table and I'm looking at the cell options for this, and this again needs to be vertically aligned. So in other words, it's going to be in the center. There are one or two other things that we might want to do. We might want to actually change the spacing within the cells. So, you know, we can do that. Let's just go back through the other elements here. Now, again, we're looking, let me just remove these things out, get these things out of the way. So, for example, here we've got a number of senators. So this group of cells here, this also needs to be merged. And this bunch here needs to be merged. Although in this case, we do need to remove the superfluous. You will, of course, if you're doing this, of course, I've just noticed you will need to change this to plural. Here we have another one here, so this has to be aligned, or this has to be merged like this. Tribunes, we've got to change it there, and this also has to be merged. So there's still quite a lot to do. I would say pretty much, you know, these styles probably ought to be smaller. So if you look at character name, for example, we probably should take that down to maybe 8 point. I think also it may be that at the moment it's aligned to the grid, so I would take that off. You don't really need that. So make sure you've got maybe less leading as well. And then also the same with this style here, which is the character role. You want to reduce the overall size of that. Going to take it down to 8 point, and I'm also going to make sure that isn't also aligned to the grid. It doesn't really need to be aligned to the grid because we're inside this table. So that's reducing it down a little bit. Okay, so what do we do with this this seemingly empty cell here? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put in something called a brace in where we need it. Not everywhere, but just where we need it, we're going to put in this brace. And now a brace character, you can do this in two different ways. And I'm not sure which is going to be the best way in my case, so I'm going to try two different methods. So the first way is that I'm going to use a glyph. So I'm going to type, and I'm going to glyphs. For this particular font that I'm using, there are some glyphs that I've got access to. And you can see that I've already highlighted one there. And this is the right curly brace. So I'm just going to double click on that and introduce that into there. Now obviously that's not big enough. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to increase the size of it. And this, of course, is going to give us an override. So I think that's probably going to be the only way to do it, because this glyph will obviously need to be different sizes depending on how many repeated characters you actually need. So I'm going to go for just using the overrides by setting it up in the properties box. And I'm just going to increase this. Now the problem is that what I might need to do is to give myself a little bit more space here initially, so that I can increase this and see how far I get with it. I don't know that it's going to be the right way. We'll have to see. But at the moment, it's kind of a bit of, well, just see what you can do with this. If there is a thinner version of this, you could certainly try to use that. But what you're going to find is that you're going to run out of space, and so you're going to have to really have quite a lot of space for it. As you can see, it's not really working for me perfectly at the moment, and I might need to do something like change the width of the character by reducing it down like this. I'm not sure. I've got various options that I can try. This also, of course, probably needs to be in the center. but again, I don't really know. And this is part of the problem, is if I then increase it, it will get to a certain point and it will run out of space. Now, I don't really know why. The way that it's aligned is not, I'm not really happy about the way that it's aligned, but that may have something to do with the leading. I don't know. I can't at the moment see why. So after some playing around, you can see that I've got it a little bit better. I'll just press the W key just to remove the construction lines. I will be removing the borders, obviously, but you can see that I've got it a little bit better, but it's quite difficult because this particular character, I can see why I'm having the difficulty, is that this character within the glyph set is actually a lowercase character. So that's why we've got rather a lot of extra space at the top within the character block, and so it's quite hard to center this since it regards it as a lowercase letter. It may be possible to use a different font and get a better result, but obviously that's the kind of thing that you want to try to do. So if you copy that character and put it into the other places that you need, and then what you obviously need to do is to then take that and reduce it down in size. So I've done it like that, but I have also reduced the width of it to make it slightly finer, and you can do this for, oh, I see that there's another one here. Oh no, that's the same. So wherever you've got that repeated, again, you can paste that into here. And then as you need it, just reduce it down. Now that's using the character glyph. That's one way of doing it. I mean, obviously the colors, we need to get rid of the colors, and we also need to get rid of the table table stroke. So I'm going to do that straight away so you can actually see how this works. So let's look at the table, look at the table options, look at the table setup. And we'll actually just remove the outer border to begin with. So turn that into 0. Okay, and then we're going to look at the individual cells. Although actually I can just select the whole thing, I think, and actually go to table cell options. And remove the cell altogether, remove the strokes altogether. I think that's enough. That should do it. And then it's really just a question of reducing the width of these elements. So you can see here we've got this and we've got this. We might be able to still reduce this by a certain amount because I've basically made that much finer now, up to a point, and then of course it disappears because it's not got enough space for it. So you've got some adjustment that you would need to make. But if you want to have a look at that without all of the peripheral information, let's just do it like that. So as you can see, it's not ideal. It's kind of, we're getting there with it, but it's not absolutely perfect. I'm sure that you, with a bit of patience, you can get this to work even better. The other way to do it will be with a graphic. So you should be able to find a graphic of a brace. So if you actually do, if you do a search, you know, let's say we just look for brace character, and look at it with images. I'll bring that up onto the screen. You'll see that you might be able to find an image, and then that image you can then place into the cell, into the table cell. But actually, of course, you'll need to stretch it accordingly to the amount of space that you need. So here's one here that you might be able to make use of. Obviously, you'd need to just chop it out so you only use 1/2 of this image. So that would be another option, really, another way of doing it. So yeah, so there are various choices, and I would say that you know, one way or the other you can get it sorted. It's just requires a little bit of patience, as you can see, to make this work in the best possible way. So yeah, that's all I can really advise you on now. Thank you.